Valentine's Day. It's cute until you remember it's named after a guy who got beaten with clubs and beheaded. Not for forgetting to buy flowers, but for refusing to shut up about what he believed in. Welcome back to Your Mic, the show where your little brand safe, let's keep it positive podcast comes to die. Today, it's Saint Valentine and the uncomfortable question, how much do you actually care? Picture this, 3rd century Rome, Emperor Claudius II, also known as Claudius Gothicus. He's the guy running the show. Depending on which version you read, there's a priest or a bishop named Valentine who keeps ministering to persecuted Christians and secretly performing marriages after the emperor bans them. Who the heck bans marriages? Anyway, Claudius doesn't like this. Valentine gets arrested. There are legends that he even tries to convert the emperor, which, spoiler alert, does not end well. He's ordered to renounce his faith or face the consequences, and because he's a real one, Valentine refuses. So, Claudius's guys beat him up with clubs and then they cut his head off. Likely, this happened around February 14th in the year 269 or thereabouts, outside the Flaminian Gate near Rome. Your date night inspiration is literally a guy who looked the empire in the face and said, "Nah, brah, I'm good." Now, this is not Sunday school. This is about your show, because a lot of people say they love their podcast. But what they really mean is, I love what my podcast might do for my business and career if I never make anybody mad. Listen, Saint Valentine marries people in secret, even though there's an imperial decree saying not to do it. You won't even post the spicy clip from your own interview because you're worried your old boss might see it on LinkedIn. Saint Valentine, again, he's a real one. He looks at persecuted believers and says, I know this will get me imprisoned, but I'm still going to serve them. You look at your industry and say, I know there are unethical practices here, but if I talk about it, I might lose access, so I'll just hint. Now, let's ask the question that matters, okay? Do you love your podcast enough to get metaphorically beheaded for it? Or are you just in it for heart-shaped chocolates? Here's what martyrdom looks like in podcasting. It's losing guests because you told the truth about how their industry really works. It's getting uninvited from conferences because you called someone out on their BS. It's watching your follower count drop after an episode where you finally said what you actually think. If every take you have fits comfortably on a corporate HR poster, you are not a host, you are a brochure. Look at how the legend frames Valentine. Emperor bans marriages. Valentine, on the other hand, keeps doing weddings in secret because he believes love and vows matter more than the emperor's recruitment strategy. Authorities say, renounce this or die. Valentine refuses and takes the L. The execution. Now, translate. Industry says, we don't talk about fake download numbers, shady ad metrics, and ghost listening. A Valentine-level host says, cool, I'll do an entire series on it. Sponsors say, we prefer you to keep the show upbeat and avoid controversial topics. A Valentine-level host says, then you are not the right sponsor. You can always tell how much someone cares by what they're willing to lose. So, let's get uncomfortably specific. Would you risk a big-name guest relationship by asking the question nobody else has the intestinal fortitude to ask? Would you tell your audience that a popular quote-unquote expert in your space is full of it, knowing it might cost you a future collab? Would you publish an episode that might make a few loyal listeners walk because you finally took a stand? If your answer is no across the board, cool. At least admit it. Say, I don't run a mission. I run a marketing channel. And then act accordingly. But if something inside you is like, no, I actually believe something about this space, then Saint Valentine is here to haunt your content strategy. Now, this does not mean you go full edgelord. No. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm saying picking fights just to watch the comments burn. You're not going to want to do that. That is not martyrdom. It's not smart. That's clout chasing in the leather jacket. And there are plenty of those on LinkedIn. So, what is the one belief about your niche that you would still talk about if it never got you another follower, another sponsor, another client? Maybe it's most of the thought leaders in my industry are regurgitating the same 10 ideas from 2009. Maybe it's this entire business model is exploitative and we all know it. Maybe it's the people we ignore, entry-level staff, frontline workers, small creators, actually know more than people on stages. That belief, that's your altar. That is where your show belongs. So here's a framework, since your brain loves frameworks. Step 1. Name your emperor. Name Claudius, your version at least. Who or what are you afraid of upsetting? Is it a specific company, a sponsor, a guild, an association or community? Is it a vague blob called the industry that you worship like Claudius with better branding? Write it down. No euphemisms. Step 2. Name your couples. Who are the people you're secretly trying to serve? Are you trying to serve underpaid creatives, burnt-out founders, people who actually do the work while everybody else collects speaking fees? Valentine didn't marry couples for the emperor. He did it for the couples. So, who are your couples? Step 3. Decide your beheading. Figuratively, not literally. What are you willing to lose? If your answer is nothing, fine. But stop calling your podcast bold. It's an overused word anyway. If your answer is, I'm willing to lose convenience, comfort, and maybe a few gigs, okay, now we're talking. Then what you do is build an episode around that. For example, topic, why most numbers in XYZ industry are fake. What you stand to lose, potential sponsors who don't want their games exposed. What you stand to gain, the trust of every listener who's been gaslit by those numbers for years. Example, topic, I'm done pretending this model is ethical. What you stand to lose, people who benefit from the model. What you stand to gain, people who have been harmed by it and are desperate to not feel crazy. Valentine dies once. Your martyrdom is way softer. Awkward networking events, angry DMs, and maybe one nasty quote tweet. If that sounds unbearable, cool. But maybe the problem isn't podcasting. Maybe the problem is that you're trying to be loved by an empire you should be resisting. So here's your challenge. Write down one belief about your industry you've been sanding the edges off of. Outline one episode where you present that belief unwatered with receipts. Decide in advance what you're willing to lose when you hit publish. Then ask yourself out loud, do I love this show enough to bleed for it a little? Look, Saint Valentine did not die so you could record another episode of Top 5 Tips to Maximize Your Network in Q3. No, he didn't. Now, you don't have to die, literally. I mean, we all do, but right now for your podcast, no, that's not what I'm talking about. But if nothing in your life ever hurts because of this podcast, be honest with yourself, please. Maybe you don't love it as much as you say you do. Or maybe this episode is not about you. Maybe it's about your friend. Send it to them and tell them not to worry about thanking me. I'd rather thank you and them for listening and standing for something.